Hello everyone, welcome to Stardust Discovery.
So we're just going to get started. Today we will be looking at the second edition of our web series, which will be centering on mastering West African School Certificate Examination for Physics subject. So we want to look at what this means for teachers and what do we have to do, to actually do our best. What do we have to do to get the best results as physics teachers? So that's what this webinar is about. Last time we looked at different things that teachers could do to improve the result outcome for their students. But I figured that it's possible to say all that, but if we don't look at the actual challenges that teachers go through and think about how to address them, those things we talked about the last time could as well be a wish list. Okay, so which is why today we'll be looking at the challenges that teachers face. Now, this can be broad and it can range from one thing to 1 million things. And I think it's also dependent on location, what type of school, and what resources is available to you. So this is really a very diverse question, and I think we all have these challenges. So yeah, let's look at that today. Let's really look at some of them. I don't think this is an exhaustive list, but we could at least start thinking about this and thinking about the solution most importantly. But I think the challenges are also important because we don't fully articulate them. We don't even talk about these things. And that has made our education system in general even more challenging in Africa because nobody is talking about it. The real issues. These are issues that need to be addressed. In order for our education system to get better, we need to not be afraid to talk about these things. So I will go through some of them that I've listed. To be honest, this is not exhaustive, but let's start from here, and I'm happy to see what people think. Just add other ideas, other challenges you have in the chat or in the comment section when you listen to this or watch this video. Okay, so one of the things that I found, some of these are from my experience or what people have told me, other people's experiences as well. Not understanding the topic. Is this even possible? We might think that as teachers we should know it all, but apparently that is not the case, right? So even when you have a degree in physics or a related subject, it's possible that you don't know everything. I, for one, I don't think I know everything. So we should at least acknowledge that. I think we should stop thinking that teachers are gods because that also puts them on their toes and make them to want to teach what they don't know. And what that does is that it gives up wrong information and also wrong impression in general because you can't fake it all the time. So if you are able to, be smart to find your way around things the first day, second day, at some point you become obvious. So generally, sometimes we don't understand the topic, and it's fair. I think it's really fair. For example, recently, at least in YA curriculum or generally in Nigerian curriculum, I know that it was just 5 years ago that the subject of satellites and rocket systems were introduced to the curriculum. And that topic is not what an average teacher is conversant with. And but most part, we are not taught some of these in school. So what that means is that almost almost everyone, even the most qualified teacher, is ignorant of that topic. Or maybe they know a bit about it, they hear about it, but they don't fully grasp the concept. Right? Now, what do we do? So these are real challenges. So just wanted to address the point that it's not just because you did not have a physics degree. It's something that happens to everyone. Nobody knows it all. But secondly, for people who do not have a physics degree for some reason, because I have been to countries where there is a strain in the education system, and the number of personnel are small compared to the actual need in the country. So what do? They have to make do with what they have. So you will find people who studied biology teaching physics. Now, you cannot be quick to judge, because this is the predicament they find themselves in, and hopefully in the nearest future that will change. If they produce more and more physics graduates and people in STEM who become teachers in the future, then that's so that will be a solution probably. But at the moment, this is what they find themselves doing. But there are also cases where this is not because there are lack of physics graduates or teachers, but maybe bad system ended up hiring people that are not qualified for one reason or the other, which is beyond the scope of this discussion. But yeah, the main point is that you do not understand the topic as a teacher. So we're focusing on teachers for this series. So what do we do? Well, we'll get to that. What other challenges? So we also have an example of people that are not tech savvy. So the last time I mentioned that we could use illustrations and videos to explain physical concepts in a way that it becomes easy for people to understand. Now, I realized that while that is true that we can use these things, some people do not know where to get those videos from. And even when we say, oh, Google is your friend, YouTube is there, all these things are free now, some people still don't know, okay? So, and this is something you just have to acknowledge. We should not be shy about it. We should just admit that we don't know where to get those from. Now, there is a major challenge that I myself encountered, which is the issue of time. Okay? So there is not enough time to teach properly and also mark assessment. So this is something that I find, which is I think is a problem of the system. So there are so much topics to cover within a term. The curriculum is jam-packed, and yet you have just this amount of time to exhaust everything. Now it becomes very challenging both for the teachers and for the students, because the students will be overwhelmed, right? And the teachers will also, feel insufficient because they want to exhaust the curriculum to prepare the students for the exam, especially for the WASCCE exam, which is not dependent on your school. Nobody's going to ask you whether you covered this topic or not. The WAEC board will set the question based on what they expect you to cover, not what you actually do, right? So this becomes a challenge, and to be honest, I had this problem also. I know I did different things to navigate that, but it's a real issue. Even with giving continuous assessment, which I highlighted last time, is a very useful way to get students ready. I also think that if you don't have time to constantly mark this assessment, it becomes a challenge, because if you don't mark it, the students will not take you serious. Why should they spend their time? And I even like, why should they spend their time and you don't give them value for that time spent? So it becomes a challenge as well. Okay, so that's one point for sure. This one is also very important. It's so true that some students are just lazy, and even when you have all the zeal and resources to impact them, they are not just interested. Okay, they just want to pass the exam, like just for their parents or for whatever reason. They are not interested in learning. So you will find those students not paying attention in class or even doing the assessments when they are giving, right? So what do we do? These are real issues, because as a teacher, it's frustrating when you are giving in your best and the students are not just cooperating. Okay, it will water down whatever effort you have put in. So it becomes very important that we also have students who are willing to learn and are ready to do whatever it takes to make sure they learn, right? All right, so we also have a situation where it is the school authority that is a challenge. Okay, I've also seen that, during the course of my teaching career, I have worked with an employer who do not care about they care about their position in my case, but they just don't care about whatever you do. They just need the students to pass. Now, this is common for private establishments because they are interested in the money they will make, so they don't want to lose students. They are more like clients to them, so they don't want to lose their client. So whatever it is you have to do to make the students look good, look like they are learning, have good reputation for the school, basically, so that they don't go out of the market. So that is their interest. So I'm going to talk about what happened at some point for me, but the actual truth is that it's becoming terrible these days. It's sad because this is not supposed to be the case at all, but this is a reality. In fact, we are having a situation where not just the school authority, but even the parents, right? The parents are now the ones asking the school authorities to make sure their students pass. They don't care what you do, how you go about it, but their student should just pass the examination. So if you are going to do exam malpractice to get it done, they don't care. So that I have also seen. So you see why this is very important that we address. These are the real issues with our education system, and if nothing is done about it, then it will continue, like a cycle. Now, another important challenge is not having the right apparatus to carry out the physics practicals and experiments. Now, more than, I think, 50% of your WASCCE examination is practical. So if you get a good score on your practical, you are already, they are already set up for an A in Y. And I think it's reasonable because most of what you learn in the theory, you actually put them to work when you do the practicals. In fact, the practical help you to now make sense of the theory that you've been learning, all of the topics you've been learning in class. So the practicals help you to make sense of them. So if you do not appreciate practicals, if you don't do them and do them well, it's simple, or it translates to the fact that you do not understand the concept in the first place. So if we are not able to do these practicals because we don't have enough apparatus, then what are we doing? What are we learning? That's already a challenge, right? And this can go in different ways. Sometimes you have apparatus for a certain experiment, but not for another experiment. So there are different kinds of experiments, all right? But you need to be able to understand everything that you are learning. And there is a way to do practical to learn the concept and also to pass your examination. So we must make sure that we are incorporating the two. Likewise for theories, you shouldn't just teach the physics theory or concept just for students to pass exam. They should learn. So the two goals here is that they learn the concept because it's useful for their day-to-day life and even for their future, and also learn how to pass the examination. So these two things must go hand in hand. Okay. Now we are getting to the actual details of West African Skill Certificate Examination. The fact that they have their guidelines, right? They have their guidelines on how they mark the examinations. So even though you know what to answer, you know the solutions, you may not just get full mark just because you know the solution. So you also need to understand their grading system, how they grade for every question, whether it's objective, theory, practical, and learn how to make sure you are following that and getting your full marks. So sometimes, the challenge is not that you don't know, but you just don't know how to solve the questions. So the whiteboard has this past question that has a compilation of all the questions for different years. Now, I also find that useful, for preparing the student, solving it and letting the students solve them as well. It just prepares them generally for the actual examination. So if as a teacher you don't know how to solve those type of questions, they're not supposed to be different from what you give your students when you teach the course or the topic. It just that sometimes, it just helps to be in the exam mood and put yourself in the examiner's shoe when you solve with these past questions. So if you don't know how to solve some of the questions, then that becomes a challenge, because how will you now teach your student? How will you help them with getting their highest grade and full marks for the examination? So that becomes a challenge as well. So it's one thing to know the concept. It's also important that you know how to respond when you are asked a question. This for the wider purposes. Okay, now this one. I'm also going to sleep on this. This is everybody's problem. I don't think anyone gets enough payment for teaching, no matter the subject and no matter the salary. I don't think we can ever get paid enough. And no matter the country, I dare say, haven't seen the teaching system and also the educational system in some other parts of the world. I can tell you that all teachers are underpaid. Everybody's crying. But this is a real issue, right? I admit myself, I remember also feeling this way, not thinking I am paid enough when I was a teacher. So this is a very valid challenge and must be talked about. Okay? So, this one is something that I think we must begin to be serious with. Not knowing how to participate in what exam script marking or grading, right? And even if you do not join with the marking, how to get the marking guide that was used. So some people don't know how to do this, and I think it's just about logistics. If you can find who is in charge and where they do it, at least for your zone, maybe you will be one step away from getting a marking guide at least. And maybe, you just need to talk to people. But I mean, we'll talk about this when we start discussing the solution. But yeah, this is a real challenge. If I am saying you need to understand the WASCCE marking guide and scheme, and even be able to teach that to your students, then you need to, be an examiner. That's what that means. You need to be an examiner or at least have access to the marking guide. All right. So, I don't know. Like I said, this is not an exhaustive list. Feel free to add to it, and I'm happy to hear what other challenges you've encountered or you know about. So now let's take a look at what could be done, like what possible solutions can we have. And I'm not here to give you the solution to all of this, but I think thinking about this and talking about it, who knows, you might be talking to the person with the solution. And I encourage you to take this conversation outside of here and talk about it and see whether there are other people that have gone through the same issues. And hopefully, I think that the more we talk about it, the more we can start finding the solution. Some people are probably oblivious of what's going on. Maybe the right people who can make the difference, who can change the narrative and correct whatever error you have. Maybe when they get to know about this, they will act. It's possible they don't even know. Okay. So, what are the ways you've been trying to solve any of this problem, at least in your own specific experience? So I will use myself as an example for most of these. Okay. So one thing I think I do, and I think people can start doing that, is to collaborate. I think collaboration is not emphasized enough at that level for teachers. So secondary school teachers, high school teachers, especially those with teaching related subjects, I think they need to collaborate for different reasons. So just like I highlighted before, some people, even though they are teaching that subject, but they are not necessarily trained in that subject. So they will have challenges from time to time with some topics. But if you collaborate, maybe meet with someone else in another school who teaches this subject and who knows it, who understands it, probably did a degree, you will be learning from that person, right? You will learn. You will come out a better teacher, at least for that topic. And another thing I think collaboration will help to do is, for you to learn from each other. So you are not just going to be the only one learning. The other person will also learn from you. If it's not like subject specific, it could be teaching a method or techniques as well. So when you exchange ideas, you always find out that there's something you learn. So doing that, I think, would help. You can also organize discussion sections from time to time where you talk about your challenges and how to get out of it. So I think collaboration is highly encouraged, whatever job it is you are doing. Well, I find this useful. So it's connected to the first point. I know it's hard, but sometimes you have to humble yourself for you to get what you want. This becomes challenging if you have portrayed a picture of I know it all to your students and even some of your colleagues. Now, it becomes challenging for you to go to them or approach anyone to ask for anything, maybe ask for an explanation. So I think it's useful, that we humble ourselves so that we can learn from other learned colleagues, and who knows, even from learned from students. But sometimes your student will just say something and you can learn from it. And I think you need humility to admit that you just learned something from your students, okay? And that should be fine, right? We should normalize these things. Okay. There are also information out there that you can take advantage of. So earlier I mentioned illustrations and videos. So I highlighted 2 websites here that I've used and I find useful. I spoke with the person, the man in charge of physics classroom, and he's incredibly doing a good job. You can check out the website and use that website for some of the topics listed there, for your learning and also for teaching. I think if we begin to make use of illustrations, it brings home what concept you are trying to explain. For sometimes these things can get abstract when you continue to speak all the grammar and image, videos, because we are like human beings, we are very good at learning with pictures. Our brain captures the pictures and videos more, and that's why all the content on YouTube are selling. So if you can incorporate those to your teaching, it's going to help your students a lot, and even yourself, because you learn. Right. Time. You mentioned the issue of time. I think time is truly a challenge, and then with all the other things happening in our lives, we can prioritize. All right. Use our discretion. For example, if you know that examination is approaching, you could decide to prioritize maybe spending more time with your students to finish up your curriculum versus some other thing you could have done with that time. So that's why I said it's by discretion. You have to prioritize. And one of the things I do then is to maybe come in the weekend and ask the students to come by weekend. And I do this without them, without getting any pay. Like I just teach during the weekend, maybe on a Saturday. I don't get paid for it, but I do it. But I'm not saying you should do this. If possible, get paid for your hours, your extra hours of teaching. So if you're going to do this on any other day that is not your normal work time, and you can get the students to pay or the school to pay, then why not ask for it? But the point is that if you are going to need extra time, ask for it and put it in. Okay, put in that extra time. I find it very, very useful. Okay. The other point is the issue of students wanting to pass the examination by all means without being interested in actual understanding of the concept. So I think as a teacher, you're also a counselor, more or less. Now this is where I would say wear your counseling shoes and try to make the students understand the implications of their action. So one of the things I found while teaching is that most of the things that we teach in secondary school is through what the students would encounter in their first year or even up to second year in the university. So if the students decide to cheat their way out to get the good grades without knowing what they have done in class, and then they manage to get out of high school and then get into university, those things they ran away from is waiting for them in the future, right? They will catch up with them still. Right, so now who is losing? Because except you are going to continue to pay your way out, cheat your way out of reality, even when you get to university. But you'll find out that you'll be stuck, right? You will get stuck. And what that does is that your foundation will be messed up. And if for any reason your foundation should not be bad in anything you do. So explain this to your students. Let them understand the importance of learning things when they are supposed to learn it. Because at the time they leave school and get to university, they will still meet these questions, they will still meet these topics. And then it will become a bit challenging and difficult. Okay? So here I will say encourage, motivate, counsel, and help them to appreciate what you're teaching. Sometimes also, if possible, make it have fun. That would help the students to be interested in what you are teaching. Okay? All right. I will continue. Is that you? Welcome. So sometimes also the school authority, could be a challenge, like we said the other time. But what do you do? Now this is tricky because as an employer and as an employee instead, it's not up to you to decide for the school authority, right? What to do. So what do? You can only try, to explain to them. For example, if you don't have enough equipment or apparatus to carry out physics practicals, and the school authority are not making efforts to provide it, all you can do is to explain and talk, as to why this is important and needed. And if they're not still listening to you, to be honest, it's beyond you. That's really nothing you can do. But what I have, done in the past, and I've seen some of my colleagues do, is that they borrow equipment from neighboring schools where they know people, just to help their students to understand the concept. And I think you can do that, right? I know it's hard, it's tough, but you can do that if it's possible, because it may not even be possible to borrow, but if it's possible and the school is okay, because sometimes maybe the school will not want for you to borrow, maybe it will then tarnish their reputation, right? But that's also fine. But just at least you do your part, and if it's not possible, then you leave it. Okay? Then I also find that there are some non-governmental organizations out there that are willing to help with issues like this. Some of them are focused on, helping the educational system of the community. So maybe you can reach out. If you reach out to those NGOs and, let them know the issues you have, and see if there is in any way how they can help, if there's something they could do to help. So these are some of the things that I've found useful. Like I said, they are not exhaustive. I'm happy to, add to this list. So let me know other possible solutions that you thought about or you've tried or carried out in your workplace or wherever. Just let me know, because we need to address these issues for real. I know that a major part of it involves the government, like the curriculum, like I said earlier, is so dense and nobody is doing anything about it. The number of hours of the day have not increased, and the number of the salary paid or to the teachers are not also increased, right? So we need to strike a balance to all of these things. So let me know, and if you are someone in government, or you have a link to the government and you're interested in advocating for better or strategized curriculum, I'm happy to, put my voice. So, talk to me, and that would be very useful. And I know I said that no one gets paid enough as teachers, so I still stand on that. It's an actual challenge. I don't think it's a solution, but I think if we can, get some of these issues out there and let it be known, I believe that some people with good conscience, some employers with good conscience might begin to do something. Or if you're working for the government, who knows, the government will begin to do something. But if nothing is said about it and we pretend like we are okay, then nothing is going to happen. So again, it's connected to the point I raised seconds ago. Talk about it, reach out and let it be known the issues that we are having as teachers, because generally this is the only way to improve the educational system. Okay, all right, so I think I will leave it here. I would look at other possible solutions, but for now, feel free to add to this in the comments. Let me see what people have been thinking about. And then I know I mentioned about how to have access to the WAEC grading centers. I think if you can check out the websites for your particular country, I have some websites I showed here for Nigeria, for Liberia. There is one for Ghana as well. You can find some of them on Facebook too. I find this Liberian one on Facebook, and I think it's very active. So ask questions, find out. There must be a center near you where you can engage, find the date they are meeting, and see if you can become an examiner, or worst case scenario, at least get the marking guide, because that is very, very, very useful for you to teach your students properly. Okay, all right, I will stop here, and then hopefully I'll see your questions on the comment section. Hopefully I will address them if I know the answer. And feel free to use this link if you want to reach out directly as opposed to comment, and we have our other social handles. If you want to connect, my email is here as well. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Okay, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe if you want to see more wholesome content. And we are also on TikTok and Facebook, so follow us, and then I will see you in our next video. All right, bye.